Hey, what's up, expats and travelers? I'm Josh with Expats Everywhere, and in today's video, we talk to Caroline, a British national that has moved with her company to Madrid, Spain. And she talks about life in Spain, and one of the big adjustments that everyone has to make when they move from one country to another is the language. Now, if you're moving to a place that doesn't speak your mother tongue, there are going to be some things that you're going to have to do to adapt, and that's going to be learning a language. Well, we're partnering with Lingoda today in this video, and Lingoda is a company that has an online language learning course that is doing something really special right now. You can sign up starting today up until October 15th, 2021, and do their language sprint. Now, the way this language sprint works is that you get cash back if you complete a certain number of classes in a 3-month period. Now, why do they do this? It's because it incentivizes you to work really hard and be consistent, because consistency in language learning is key. So we want you guys to succeed when you move overseas and learn a language and be able to adapt to your new culture. We have a discount code for you guys to use that will be cash off of signing up for their platform. And then if you complete the sprints, you're going to get cash back in your pocket or in your bank account, so that you've essentially learned the language for half off or even free. I'm going to talk more about this at the end of the video, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up and give you guys an opportunity to stay to the end where I explain more about this. Now, let's go to Caroline. Well, Caroline, thank you so much for meeting with me and talking to me about your life in Madrid and your transition there. What did life look like before moving to Madrid, though, so we can have some kind of context to what was going on for you in London?
Yeah, cool. So as you said, I was living in London. I lived there straight after university, so I lived there for around 5 years. And I was working for a big Spanish company in the centre of London. London's like where all my friends are, all my home friends are. So it was a very close environment. I had my little group that I've been friends with for 15 years since school. And yeah, as I said, I worked in the same company for quite a long time, doing different jobs and moving around a little bit. But yeah, I was living there with my family close and all my friends, and I really enjoyed my job. It was really cool. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, why did you feel like you needed to make the move since life was going so well in London?
So obviously, being a Spanish company, I was traveling quite a lot to Madrid anyway. And at the start, a lot of my team were based in London with me. And then little by little, the structures started changing and more of the team was in Madrid. And eventually, by the time I moved, I actually was the only one in London of my team. Obviously, within the office, there was loads of other people. And that didn't bother me. I've been working there a long time and it worked fine. I already had the connections to be able to work remotely. So it wasn't that it was a problem. But when I was traveling there more and I could see more opportunities if I was in Madrid being there. So I sort of spoke to my boss and I asked about an international assignment to see if I could do it for 6 months, 12 months. I wasn't sure how long I wanted to stay for. And she was really up for it and everyone was. So that was really good. I'm super grateful that the company allowed me to do that. And then within obviously, as I said, I had all my friends and family there and my life. But it was kind of well, if I don't do it now, when should I do it? I was in a really part of my life where it'd been the same for a while, and I was like, well, why not just try it? I was at a good age, I didn't have many responsibilities, so just go, and you can always come back if you don't like it. So I thought I'd give it a go.
Okay, you said several things there that I want to unpack. First of all, you weren't quite remote yet, and would you recommend just going ahead and putting yourself out there, asking your higher ups, is it okay if I move?
Yeah, definitely. Working for a big company, I guess it's easier. They're more used to all the admin involved and have processes to let you move. And obviously Madrid to London, London to Madrid isn't that far. It's not that complicated. Before Brexit, it wasn't that complicated, and that was when I moved. So they already had all of that in place. So you just sign yourself up and they let that happen. And also, as I said, I had been coming to Madrid a lot before, and so it wasn't that difficult. I knew where in the city I wanted to live. The company realistically didn't need to do that much for me other than the paperwork and pay me. Yeah, and my bosses were really supportive in terms of it was a good opportunity to prove that I was ambitious or wanted to grow within my career. So I was really lucky, and I assume lots of companies are like that, but it's definitely a good way to do it. It takes away a lot of the hassle in terms of moving and finding a job when you get that. It makes it easier in terms of like you already have a job, you already have a team, so it's not everything new at the same time. Like you're moving country and city, it's hard enough. Like at least my team was stable and my job, I didn't have to worry about that bit.
Okay, we're going to touch on that move in just a second, but I also wanted to kind of ask about the emotional side of things. You said that you were at a good age where you felt like you could make this move. What does that
Yeah.
mean? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I guess so. I had lived abroad one time before when I was at university, but that's all a bit of like Erasmus. It's like the party stage, and like it's not quite the same. Whereas I think obviously there's a time when you start thinking about like buying houses, getting married, having children, or
Mhm.
whatever it is you want to do. And I wasn't at that stage yet, but I had been living in London for enough years that I was in quite a routine. So I was like, change it now, and see if I like it. Like I wasn't bored necessarily because I was really happy. I have everything that I wanted, but it was like, why not now? Like before I have, like I only had to think about myself in terms of money or like whatever. It was really easy to travel back and forth, and so I thought it was just like the perfect time. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So once you knew that you wanted to make the move, what were some of the steps that you had to take to make it a reality?
So my company did all of the paperwork, so that side was all covered. All I had to do really was like find a flat and get on a plane. I remember going to the airport like with my suitcases. Like I didn't ship anything. I just came because I was coming just for 6 months at the start. I didn't. I just brought my summer clothes and was like, well, I'll survive. And also, it's not that far, so I knew that if I went back, I could bring another suitcase of stuff. But I didn't ship furniture or anything because I was just going to rent a flat that I was going to live in for 6 months. And at the time before COVID, I wasn't really going to be in that flat that much. Like I was going to the office every day, so I didn't need much with me. So yeah, I came in the summer, found a flat. It was pretty easy, especially being used to like London prices in terms of rent. Like finding a flat in Madrid wasn't that hard. I just got on a plane basically.
Okay. Now, what was it like after you got off the plane, and what were some of the steps that you had to take to kind of settle into life in Madrid?
I think I do remember at the time being like, oh God, what have I done? But because I had like people from work that were also my friends, it was actually quite easy. Like I did miss my friends that I was hanging out with in London. They'd be my friends forever. So you do definitely miss that deep connection with your friends. But like I do luckily have some friends here that I'd had because I had been traveling back and forth and I've met them and I've been working with them for a long time. So they were really welcoming and actually more welcoming than I think it would have been if someone was going the other way around. Like Spanish people, or they're not all Spanish, and I think that helps. They're used to having foreign people come over. I was friends with like lots of people from different countries, and so they understand what it's like to be new, and so they were a lot more welcoming. Whereas in London, perhaps it's just my little bubble that I lived in, but people tend to have their little group and and they stick to it. So if someone comes over, I mean, we're not rude to them, but we don't invite them into our lives quite so quickly or easily. But I think that's also quite British thing. So yeah, I was really lucky that my friends here made it really easy for me. It was great.
Would you have any advice for people who don't necessarily have that work environment when they move to Madrid, like in ways to get out and meet people and find a
Yeah.
new community?
I've built all of mine like around work, and then they have invited me to like their groups outside of work, which has been really really nice. But if I didn't have that, I think that the way I would do it is I really enjoy sports, and that's always a good way. If you're doing an activity, it's not quite as an intense like conversation to meet someone, so it gives you a connection. Spanish people love paddle, so I've started playing paddle, and that's like there's apps where you can like just join a game. You don't have to know anyone to start with. Like you sign yourself up, and I think it exists for football as well. I played a lot of netball in England, which lots of people, especially Americans, don't know what it is, but we play it a lot in England, and it was like a big, big part of my life. So I definitely miss that. And there is one club here, but it's just one club, and I'm like super competitive. So like one club, they obviously don't play against anyone else.
Right.
But anyway, it's a good way to meet people. Like there's a load of English girls that are here playing netball. So yeah, I'd say sport is the way that I managed to meet new people.
Okay. What were some of the other things that you needed to adapt to your new life in Madrid?
I think it's Socially, it's quite different. Like I said, my group in London is quite close. Like we've been friends for a long time. Whereas in Madrid, like everybody mixes groups. Like everybody's just like mixes people together. So if I met one person, I'm like, well, I'm meeting this person because that's my friend from this situation. Whereas quickly I realized that people just everyone's like, yeah, just come on. Like, and then there's a bigger group and no one really knows each other, which works great for me because I got to meet more and more people. But getting used to that. Like I needed to invite people to different situations to create that group myself. Also, I think the work social situation, I'm not sure whether it was just my company, but in London, my office was like right in the city centre. So work was also a big social part of my life. Like going for drinks after work, that's obviously a big part of the English culture in London. Whereas here, my office was really far out of the city centre, and the offices were way bigger here. So it was a bit more of a formal environment. So people don't tend to socialize after work. Obviously, I have my friends, but that was a totally separate part of the office life. Whereas in London, everyone kind of gets together. So that took a while. Like commuting, you feel like you really were commuting just for work and then coming back. Whereas in London, it was like you go to work and then your whole socials there as well. So yeah.
Well, let's dive into a topic that everyone loves, the bureaucracy. So,
Uh-huh.
how was it like adapting to things there in terms of the bureaucracy? What were some of the things that you had to go through to make sure that things were finalized, certainly before Brexit?
Yeah, so I moved about a year before Brexit, a little bit more. So luckily missed the really complicated situation there. But so the main thing that gets you through everything is just getting a NIE, so the identity card for foreign people, which I had, as I said, I'd lived in Barcelona before, so I had originally had that, and I didn't know that that number sticks with you for life, and
Hmm.
so I didn't have that number anymore, so I had to like declare that it was lost and go through a bit of a process there. But it was easy. You go to the police station, you have to do quite a lot of queuing, but eventually I got the new card, and that then gives you access to apply for anything you need, like a bank account or like even putting your name on the bills, the utility bills in a flat, and renting a flat. Even some will do it with a passport, but if you have that ID number, then everything's a lot easier. So that's the first thing. And then as I've lived here a little bit more, I've had to do things like change my driving license to a Spanish one. You have to change it after 6 months, I think. And I luckily did it before Brexit because some of my friends that have moved after, they now have to retake their test, which is
Hmm.
a bit of a bummer. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I think moving within Europe in general hasn't been too difficult. And like I didn't need a visa or anything, so yeah, once you get that card, it's like your key to everything, really.
Once you get the NIE, right?
Yeah,
That, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, let's go back to earlier. You said that you know Spanish, you know
Uh-huh.
Castilian Spanish,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
how did you learn Spanish?
So I studied languages at school, obviously, and then when I went to university, I studied Spanish and business as a joint degree. So 50% of my degree is Spanish language, and then I spent 1 year in Barcelona, which is obviously they speak Catalan. So I also learned a bit of Catalan there. When I instead of doing a dissertation, you had the option to learn another language, and to me, I hate writing, so I was like, perfect. I would rather learn Catalan. Like if you speak a bit of French, a bit of Spanish, it's not that difficult. And the level that I needed, it wasn't super high. I didn't have to be fluent. So yeah, I have spoken Spanish for quite a long time, and then moving here, working in the London office. I had to speak Spanish less, obviously, and lots of people in my team spoke really good English anyway. But moving to the Spanish office, obviously, you're the day to day, like at the coffee machine or like just being in the office more, you have to speak more and more and more. So I got more and more confident. And now, obviously, most of my friends are Spanish or Spanish speaking. So it's helped with my like fluency. And I'm not so shy. When I first moved, I was a little bit shy about, especially speaking on the phone or
Hmm.
something. Because if you can't see the lips speaking, I would always panic that I wouldn't understand. But no, now I'm a lot more confident. So
Okay, but it took some time to kind of build that confidence up.
yeah,
So most of
definitely.
your language acquisition actually happened when you were in university. Is that because of classes, or did Erasmus play a part of that, or can you kind of give us a little more indication on how you did so well adapting to a new language?
Well, I think within my family, like we've always, like my parents have always put like a big focus on speaking languages, which
Ah.
isn't like that common in England. I think at school it's not necessarily like a big focus in schools, but yeah, my mom always spoke French to us when we were little. She's not French, but she spoke French, so I had that as a bit of a base, and so I liked languages. I liked being good at them. And so I started Spanish, and then at university, yeah, as I said, I studied Spanish, and I particularly studied the language side, as in the language classes that we were given at university was Spanish for business. So it wasn't necessarily all of the culture side of the language, which if you study just a language, you get a lot into like films or books. But we did a lot of just language and practicing. And so that really helped when I then got a job in Spanish, because I felt confident that I had the vocabulary. And actually, that's something that when I moved, I did notice. Like, I was quite good at speaking like formal, like business chat, but I didn't have the like small talk. I didn't have the way to speak in a bar. Like, I can have a conversation, but what do you do when there's a silence? I didn't have much filler. So I had to adapt to that a little bit. But yeah, Erasmus helped, but I'm sure you or lots of people know that Erasmus is also full of other like foreign people. Like, I made friends with lots of people from Holland who obviously speak perfect English, and a lot of it is actually in English by the time you get there. But it helps in terms of just being more confident. If you're constantly surrounded by the language, it helped me have to be more used to just speaking it straight away. Whereas in England, if you only speak it in the class, once you get outside of that environment, you're a bit more nervous to start speaking. So that helped.
All right, before we wrap up with the interview with Caroline, I wanted to tell you guys a little more about Lingoda to see if you wanted to join their language sprint. They're the #1 trusted online school. They were founded in Berlin, Germany in 2013, and they provided online language courses in English, business English, German, Spanish, and French to over 70,000 students worldwide. Now, the really cool thing about the language sprint is that it's a challenge to you that will incentivize you with cash back. The reason why they do this is they really want to incentivize you so that you can see real-world results. Sign up starts now. It ends on October 15th, 2021. So be sure to sign up as soon as possible so that you can take advantage of this sprint and hopefully get your language learning paid for, right? Here's your discount code for you guys to sign up. You will get 20 euros off of the deposit. There's a 49 euro deposit that they require, and it's going to be billed in installments each month. But if you complete the sprint, you'll get that cash back. There's flexible learning hours so you guys can study at any time from anywhere. They have qualified native speakers. So these are people who are qualified to give you advice, give you cultural references, give you those expressions that you're going to use out on the streets. And they also have small classes, generally 2 to 3 students, maximum of 5 students. And the great thing about this is that you have people to practice with. You're going to be able to interact with people that are on your level, and then you're going to have an instructor there that's going to be able to guide you, that's qualified, that's a native speaker, and they're going to be able to fix those things that you and the other student that you're the same level can't fix. Are you ready to be the next Lingoda Sprint champion? If you are, check out that link, use that discount code. And before you do, if you'd like to check out the FAQ, you can do that so you're informed on how it all works. Let's get back to Caroline. Did you find anyone or anything particularly helpful during your adaptation period?
I think just those friends that I was mentioning from work, like in particular, like there's a Brazilian girl that was in my team who's now like one of my best friends. And she had moved here a couple of years previous to me. So she knew what it was like to be new in the office, to be foreign, all of that paperwork that you have to do. And she's also like super confident. So like she would help me ring up companies and like bargain a deal on the Wi-Fi. She would just call up in my name and do that for me. So she was really, really sweet and helped with that. And yeah, like I said, some of the other people, they weren't necessarily in my team at work, but I knew them around. Whenever they saw me in the office, they were super welcoming and said like, yeah, come for dinner with my friends. And I was like really shocked at how like open people were to that, because that was my main worry about moving. Like I have my job and the paperwork is okay, but like it was more socially. And so yeah, just a couple of girls from the office were really, really nice to me.
Nice. So the pro tip that I captured in there is try to find someone who is maybe 1 or 2 levels above you in terms of they've already kind of been there and done that, but they're not so far ahead that they've forgotten all of those pains that they had. Okay, cool. Well, What was the most difficult thing that you faced whenever you made this transition?
Maybe this isn't going to be that useful in terms of like the long term, but like the most difficult thing has been COVID. Obviously, has happened like
Mm.
kind of in the middle of me coming here, and so when I first moved, in my head, the idea was like I can just fly back whenever I want. It's only like a 2 hour flight. It's really easy. Um, and that was what I was doing at the beginning. Like some weekends, if I didn't have plans, I'd just like jump on a flight on a Friday and come back by the Monday. And also, I could work from the London office if I wanted to, and that was already easy. Obviously, now that's not so easy, but and I have to go more like I guess more as if it was a long haul trip, like just go once or twice a year at Christmas and in the summer. And so I guess I've been here a while now. It's not so difficult because I have my life here. But if that had happened like right at the beginning, I think I would have really struggled. Yeah, I'd say just getting used to not being able to travel as much as I originally thought I would be able to. And within Spanish culture, Spanish life, I don't know, I find it all quite easy to adapt to. Like, it's a really good quality of life. The heat in August, perhaps, like 2 weeks in August is a bit much, but then you start to realize why everybody leaves Madrid in
Mm.
those 2 weeks of
That's right.
August. So yeah, I just start to copy the lifestyle a little bit, and yeah, find your way through.
What are some differences though that you've seen between like the social culture or the
Yeah,
dining culture, like the food
yeah,
culture? It's quite different than the UK, right?
yeah, it is. Yeah, and the drinking culture, like I did notice when I first arrived, I was like, oh my God, everyone drinks really slowly. Like compared to English people that, because we stand up with a drink, I think you drink it a lot quicker. Whereas here, everyone's sitting down. Like not only because of COVID, just like they all sit down and drink a lot slower, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So yeah, there's that. And then eating and drinking, I think they eat out a lot more here. It's a lot cheaper and it doesn't have to be like in London people think the food is bad, but actually the food is not that bad. Like, but it tends to be more like you'll go to a restaurant which would be more expensive and more of a big deal. Whereas here you can just go out for some tapas in the evening or like go out and you might eat, you might drink. It's not like a formal meal. So that's good. Like I really like that part of the lifestyle, but adapting to meeting and eating out a lot. Like you have to work out what food you're going to buy in your house and what
Mhm.
you're going to eat out. I tend to eat out like way more here. So yeah, adjusting to that. And then the type of food. At the beginning, there were certain things I missed, like any British people will know, like crumpets. Like absolutely love crumpets, and you can't buy them here at all. But it just makes when you go home and you have those foods. My mom always has everything ready, and it's really sweet, and yeah, it's not too bad.
What are your favorite tapas? What do you tend to go for when you're at the bar?
Yeah. So I don't eat meat. Actually, that I should mention that has been a little bit tricky moving to Spain. Obviously, meat is a bigger part of their culture, but I do eat fish, and so whenever you say you don't eat meat, it's a bit of a shock to people, and then you're like, "But don't worry, I eat fish," and they're like, "Okay, okay, we can find something."
We can work with you.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously tortilla, I love pimientos padron. I don't know. At the moment, everyone's obsessed with burrata. Is in all of the restaurants,
Mm.
which is also great. And also a big craze at the moment is cheesecake in Spain. Like every restaurant has cheesecake, and that is also great. But I know it's not particularly Spanish, but it's
What,
everywhere.
what style of cheesecake? This is a new one for me.
Yeah. No. They're like baked one. It's like really like soft, but not the one that's just like a refrigerated soft cheese. It's one that's baked and then like super gooey in the middle. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. And what's the vegetarian vegan scene like? When we lived there over a decade ago, it didn't really
Yeah.
seem like there was much. So has it
Yeah.
gotten better in Madrid?
Definitely, yeah. I actually luckily had a friend that was vegan. He's just gone vegetarian, but he was vegan and from here, so that was good for me because he knew a few restaurants. But I
Right.
do think that there are more and more that are opening up, or more and more vegan options on a menu.
Perfect.
And there's a couple of really great vegan restaurants, like Avocado Love, which is right in Malasaña, is really really good. And I do think that especially maybe like our generation are adapting more to going to places like that. Before it might have been difficult to get a group of Spanish friends to go to a vegan restaurant, whereas now they're a bit more open like to doing that. So yeah, it hasn't been too difficult. And even in restaurants, when you ask for something vegan, they normally know what that means and what that entails, and can try
Yeah.
and adapt to it. There is the odd occasion where you ask for something vegetarian, and then there is like a lump of chicken in there, and it's like, no, chicken is still meat. But
Right.
it's only happened like once or twice. But I'm probably my part for not explaining that meat is all types of meat. But
So that
yeah,
that tends to happen in Portugal from time to time as well, where it's like they hear it and they're like, okay, so no beef.
yeah,
You know, like meat
exactly.
and beef
Yeah,
get like
yeah,
this
yeah,
sameness when it's really not. Okay. Well,
yeah.
what are some things that you've learned about yourself during this adaptation process and now kind of settling into this life here over the past year or two in Madrid?
I think that I'm a lot more independent than I realized. Like, as I said, I was in like such a bubble of my life with all my family close, all my friends close, and all my friends, we were doing the same thing. Like, everyone had a different job, but like we were in the same stage of life, and everyone was living in a flat in London and in the same like career stage. Whereas now moving here, I don't necessarily have anyone that's in exactly the same situation as me, so I have to think of things um, for myself, which is obvious, but like I don't have someone to call and say like, how did you do this, or whatever. So I think like just thinking a bit more independently, I've realized that it's not that bad, and there's difficult things, but nothing's ever impossible. Like, it is fine. I also think I've realized I'm a little bit more social than I realized. Meeting new people, and as I said, I don't know if it was the language or just like I didn't have to meet a lot of new people before, but like the small talk and the like making that initial connection, I've learned that I can do it. Like, I managed to build like quite a good group of friends here. So yeah.
And what's changed the most when it comes to your life now in Spain?
Maybe my like work life balance. Like, in Spain, I think they have it quite well. Like, the hours tend to be a little bit longer,
Hmm.
but work is work and life is life. Whereas in London, it kind of gets mixed together quite a lot, because I don't know whether it's like living in the city. In London, the city tends to be like where you go for work and social, and it all happens at once, and then everyone goes home. Whereas in Madrid, everyone's work is perhaps a bit further out, or if it's in town, but the city is a lot more like sociable. There's a lot of families that live here, and right in the center. So you finish your work at the end of the day, and then you don't have to make a plan like 2 weeks in advance to like book a restaurant and go somewhere, like, because no one can live that far away. You don't also talk about your work so much because it's not all connected. You're not standing outside the pub that's outside your office, so you don't feel like you're part of that like city like work life. Like, relaxing is for relaxing, and Spanish people do quite a lot of relaxing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
they do. Middle of the
Yeah,
day, that siesta,
exactly. Yeah.
which I think contributes to why the work day is a little longer, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although, I mean, I don't actually know anybody that does do a siesta. Maybe in the summer, but like, no, I think it's occasionally on the weekend. People might say it, but no, it's not part of their like day-to-day life. But they do tend to take a lot longer lunch break.
Right.
Yeah, and like have like a three-course meal at lunch. It's like, but yeah, in England, it's like you get a sandwich and eat it at your desk, whereas that doesn't tend to happen here.
Yeah, you're sprinting through Pret, grabbing something, going.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Nice. What Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. How has living abroad transformed your life?
I think that I've met a lot of really interesting people. I now understand like cultures a lot more. So not only Spanish culture, but as I said, like, I've met people from lots of different countries, and it's really interesting understanding their culture and their background and why they've come here or why they are still living here as opposed to moving back. Just experiencing a different lifestyle, and then working out that even though like I'm British and I love London, like I can actually really enjoy a different lifestyle, and um, yeah, I just having a great time here. It's really good.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Caroline, thank you so much for meeting with Expats Everywhere.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.